the public. My name is John Cater, Clerk to the committee. The public element of today's meeting is being recorded in line with the City Corporation's policies, and the recording shall be retained for up to 1 year. Chairman.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Welcome everybody. Happy New Year. When I was brought up in the south of Ireland, it was always happy and prosperous New Year, but that may not be a word for the Finance Committee for this coming year that we're about to face. But anyhow, welcome everybody. Town Clerk.
Chairman, thank you. In advance of today's meeting, I've received apologies from Nicholas Benson-Smith, Simon Duckworth, Deputy Christopher Hayward, Alderman Jeanette Newman, Cecile Saluja, Deputy Anne Corbett, and Deputy Benjamin Murphy. In addition, I believe Simon Duckworth's joining us today on Teams, and Anne Corbett as well.
Thank you.
Chairman, turning to item 2, are there any member declarations, the Code of Conduct, and respective items on today's agenda?
I'm assuming none. Yep, none. Thank you.
Thank you. Turning to item 3, Chairman, the minutes of our previous meeting on the 9th of December for decision, pages 7 through 14.
Are we happy with the accuracy of the minutes, Martha?
Hello, Henry. Thank you. Just a quick one that I've spotted, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So page 7, James, so John Davies is 2-6 down, says he's an observer, but then on page 8 it says he's sending his apologies. So I guess A, is he a member? I think he is, given he's here. And B, was he or was he not present? Because I don't think we need to give apologies for observers.
Well spotted.
Yeah.
Chairman, thank you. If you're joining on Teams, Alderman, you are counted as an observer of the meeting, not part of the quorum. So technically, you do give your apologies. You can't be there in person. So that's why the observer is there.
Great to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we happy with the minutes? If I could just draw what your point to one point, page 9, paragraph 7, the IFM forward strategy. We're going to pick that up in a minute because we said we wanted to bring it back to this committee in 2027. I'll mention it on the next paper. I just want to make sure that the our successors don't lose sight of that in 2027. But other than that, we accept the minutes. Thank you.
Chairman, turning to item 4, Finance Committee's forward plan, report of the Chamberlain for information, page 15.
So members, this is what it is. What I've asked the Town Clerk to do from now on is on the far right hand column to put in another column for items extended further into the future, and we'll put on IFM contracts review 2027 in that margin for future, and it'll obviously we'll come back to it nearer the time, but I just wanted to make sure that if we do agree in action, we don't lose sight of it. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Turning to item 5, the local government provisional settlement update, report of the Chamberlain for information, page 17 through 22.
Members, you probably saw my note yesterday, which puts this into context. I have, before I pass over to the Chamberlain, I've got a 2 charts which I've asked Daniel Sankey to put up on screen because they show the position of City Fund quite neatly. Daniel, I know you can see you're there. Can you put these up on the screen?
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Hang on a second.
Thank you. Now look, very quickly. Can you get one back, Daniel? That's it. Just on there, that is the Sankey chart, which I love. It shows the lines of income coming in from the left, lines of expenditure going out on the right, and you can see as it stands, we have a budget of 324 million, which matches. There are 2 points to draw your attention to. You'll see on the left-hand side, council tax is in 11 million is in dark blue. It really, as I mentioned yesterday, that is not a big number. Even if we were to double council tax, that would go to something like 20 million, and that obviously that's politically quite difficult. But I just wanted to alert you. You can just see the proportion that council tax represents of our total. And I think then just below that, you'll see the business rates number in there, 95.4. Daniel, can we move on to the next slide? And now you can see the difference that the government formula has generated for our income lines. It's quite crude, but it does give you a pretty good idea of the sort of quantum that City Fund is now facing. So on that happy note, I'm going to hand you over to the Chamberlain just to thank you, Caroline.
So thank you very much, Chairman. Are we standing?
No, I don't want you.
Thank you. So members, you'll have received the chairman's email alongside this update, and as you can see there, it is not good news for the City Corporation. It does two things. One is that there is a considerable level of uncertainty now on what our local government funding will be for our local authority activities after 26-27. So there is only a 1-year settlement. Up until the day before the settlement itself, we understood that there would be 3 years as part of a settlement for all local authorities with transitional relief. So for 26-27 we get the transitional relief, but we do not have the certainty of funding for 27-28 and 28-29. On the other hand, government have responded to our request for a bespoke funding arrangement. The formula does not work for an organisation such as ours, where we're providing services to a daytime population of 860,000 compared to a residential population of 8,600. So if you look at that nearly 80-to-1 ratio that the chairman pointed out in his note, we think makes us unique amongst the country for that side. The other piece that we're picking up on as well is that many of the services we provide in our City Fund function are services to London or services to the nation, which is funded out of City Fund. Some of those are provided under statute. So if we pick examples such as the Port Authority and the reception centre at Heathrow, these are things which we are doing for London more widely, the cost of which would otherwise fall on other public sector bodies. So we are hopeful that there is a very strong argument in there for our bespoke funding arrangement that will cover these types of services, because those costs have to be picked up elsewhere. That said, there's a lot of advocacy which now needs to happen over the coming weeks in terms of putting our proposition to the government, to the department, the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, to explain the services we provide, the funding streams which we will need, and how that will continue, and conversations about how we do that. But I think, members, you need to be aware that the level of uncertainty around this could mean as much as a wholesale review of what we do as a local authority. That's the, I mean, you can see that from the removal of the funding in City Fund. This is not something where we can play around the edges with savings. This is categorically what services does this organisation provide as a local authority, potentially bottom up. So that's the funding. The other bit I did want to highlight to you as well was the council tax flexibilities. That our government had a stated aim of giving the 6 local authorities who are furthest away from the average national council tax level for a Band D the ability to increase council tax closer to that level. That won't help us on the funding stream, even, and it is a local decision and government recognise that, but even if members were minded to increase council tax to that level, it would only raise £5 million. So that is not going to do very much towards plugging this at all. So that's certainly not the funding solution. Government have recognised in any case that increasing council tax at those levels is politically difficult. It has, and you'll see in the public consultation, if you go into it, there is an assumption within the workings that council tax will increase in 27-28 and 28-29 in the estimates they're making on our spending power. But for this year coming, for 26-27, the referendum principles remain in place. So that's the 4.99%. So we will work on all the aspects of advocacy. Obviously, the opportunity to have a discussion here. There may be some things, members, that you would wish to say in private session that we could go into in more detail. And there is the meeting of the Resource Allocation Subcommittee towards the end of this month with Service Committee Chairman to discuss ramifications. On that note, Chairman, I'll
thank you. So any comments will be interesting. I think probably what I'm really just alerting your attention, if you go to page 20, we see the chart. Funding allocation. What I'm particularly worried about for our successors is that the words T or the letters TBA are replaced by the word nil. And that's obviously a worst case scenario there. But anyway, I got Oliver and James. I think Oliver.
Thank you very much. This obviously gives rise to a whole lot of questions and complicated topics, not, I think, confined solely to the financial future of the City of London Corporation. It seems to me that there are a number of threads at the moment, one of which is undoubtedly the consolidation of police forces in the southeast of England, which tie in with this. But just sticking with this for a moment, I'm a little puzzled as to why, and I'd like to know whether the Chamberlain can help, one specific area. Why it is, do you think, that they're limiting it to a 1-year settlement at this stage? Most authorities, 99%, have had a 3 or 4 year funding process. It seems to me an extraordinarily difficult process to a local authority to only have 1 year, because you really can't plan ahead at all, it seems to me, with your services. What is the logic? Have you discovered at all from the ministry as to why they want to do that? In relation to the daytime, nighttime, their argument, and I have read the papers, is that local authorities who have large daytime populations but small nighttime populations provide different types of services to those which is largely residential. And I can see some argument both ways, but I can't see any argument at the moment that should limit you to a 1 year settlement. So what is the logic of that? Can you help?
Oliver, I'm just going to pass over to James quickly.
Yeah, sure.
I think I want to pick up the same issue before we go back to the Caroline.
Certainly.
James.
Thank you. I seem to have got the microphone that doesn't work again. So given, quite frankly, the funding pressures that we had more generally, even ahead of this settlement, and clearly I think the work that we need to be doing around this, we should have been doing anyway. I think this obviously makes it more urgent and gives us a bigger problem, just sort of stating the obvious. Point I wanted to raise now is I would have thought we should be doing, I think having set out the problem, shouldn't we be doing most of this conversation in non-public? Because I think if we're talking about advocacy and our views of the position of, such as the question that's just been asked, I just think we will end up getting ourselves into a bit of a pickle, whether it's police reform, whether it's government position. And I would suggest, Chair, that we ought to maybe have this in non-public.
Chairman, I would support that. I think it's also a bit premature to have the conversation because there's still quite a lot of work that's got to be done in order to see what our position is. And, you know, doing what ifs for 3 or 4 different scenarios seems to me not particularly productive at this stage. If there are active, and there should be, active conversations between members as well as officers, I'm talking about senior members and officers, with the government and with civil servants.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with that? I mean, I think as a matter of, Stephen, if you've got a question on process rather than otherwise, if it's a more substantive, we might pick
I
up.
don't disagree with that. I think there are things we can discuss in public. I don't disagree with also having a conversation in private.
Well, rather than chop and change, I suggest we pick this back up again in private if we may. And Daniel's got the charts out there, so we can. There's 2 more to follow, which on city estates, so they all fit together quite neatly. So, are there any other public comments, but on process? Yeah, but otherwise we'll pick this up later, I think. Oliver.
The only reason I ask my question now is, as you know, I have to leave for another meeting at 2, and I didn't want to start a discussion. I would like an answer to the Chamberlain.
I think we'll get through to you before you leave.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. In which case, I think, can we note that and we'll come back to it. What I have asked everybody, as it follows on quite logically, is I brought forward agenda item 9, the risk register, to the next paper, really because obviously there's 2 key risks here, the HRA and the and City Fund. My question at call over really was, given what we've already seen up here, whether City Fund shouldn't now be pushed up to 32 rating, because that's obviously, it's pretty serious. But other than that, Chamberlain, did you want to add anything else to this, or can we just note it?
No, I think you just note. Well, I think, Chairman, you have to approve it. It's.
Oh, we have to. Okay. Well, are we happy to note the risk register? And I just note my observation about the 16 rating. Is it perhaps rather higher than that? I think this was drawn up before we had the funding formula. Agreed. So thank you. Okay. Let's move on to paper number 6 then.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 6, the draft Chamberlain's business plan for 2026 through 29, report of Chamberlain for decision, page 23.
Chairman, did you want to add? I think this is this for us to agree?
Yes,
Or no, you think- okay.
this is one for decision. Apologies, you brought the risk item before, hadn't you, which
Yes.
is for information. Yes, so this one is for decision making. And the intention here is that members can see what I'm proposing to do over the next 3 years with the team's work to support the work of this committee. I think we'll also link on to the next item around internal financial control,
Yep.
because I think that's one of the areas this committee has been concerned about, and will reflect on the level of work that needs to go into that once you've reviewed the internal audit report.
Okay, Stephen.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yes, I think that sort of leads into what I was going to say, is that I've been thinking about what, and this is to do with corporate service as well as finance committee, about what responsibility we have as a committee to scrutinise what other committees are doing. You know, so to what extent are we clear as a finance committee that whatever decisions they're making are value for money? You know, in the sort of things they do, because I think that relationship between finance and other committees could do with a little bit more thinking, particularly in the context of what we're going to be talking about in a bit. And I don't think we're that clear as a corporation about exactly where we are, and perhaps corporate services to do with staff are, with having a scrutiny role vis-a-vis the rest of the corporation.
Jamie, do you want to add to that? I mean, I think it's a sensible suggestion. I think we're going to have to my instinct is we're going to have to call in more things, but
I think it's a really important point, particularly as we get into this new environment as well on the funding side. I mean, in terms of value for money, absolutely within this committee's responsibilities in terms of reference, and looking at how we build that relationship with the service committees and the type of information service committees are getting as well. So that's something the Financial Services Director is looking into, to make sure that it's a broader set of financials which are going through, and some of the concerns which this committee would have as well coming in there. So I think the point's well made, and we'll incorporate that.
no, I'm just going to pick up. I just hand over to Andrew, but I think the 2 issues we did pick up in call over, one that we need to enhance our financial controls clearly, and I've again asked Ray now bang on about this, is better and simpler financial reporting to make sure that people do understand the numbers that they're seeing. But Andrew, you had a point to make.
Yeah, so Steve, I very much agree with what you say. So the point that Henry's made is on financial control. And when I looked at the business plan we had follow yesterday, I stressed the importance of it, and that links to your question about the oversight. Now, most of you will know that most councils have what's called a scrutiny committee, and fortunately or unfortunately, at the corporation we don't have that. But the principle should still be there. And given the direction of travel over the next few years, I think Stephen's totally correct, and we need to work on this as to how the relationship of our finance committee from a value for money perspective works with the service committees. I'm sure we'll go into a little bit more detail in part 2 on that.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chairman. And perhaps this is something that either you, Chairman, or an officer can respond to. I thought, and if I'm wrong, I want to get it clarified for the benefit of all, that when you've got a service committee that's going to be spending something, I mean, it has a budget planning process. Those budgets and things will feed into the Chamberlain's department. And if there was an overspend or an issue, then it does come back here. And that's how we check on these things. Now, if I'm wrong, because I'm hearing this dialogue suggesting that we need to be calling things in and looking in a different way, is that not how it's working?
It is.
That's exactly how it is working. So in terms of the financial risk to the organisation, this committee will call in any aspect of the business which is causing an issue there. There is also the efficiency and performance working group below this committee, which does a lot of the heavy lifting for that. So areas, and you've got Guildhall School on the agenda today. That is a product of doing the work around how the operating model can change change, from being flagged as a risk to the organisation to how do you turn that into an opportunity. So it demonstrates the work that this committee and its working group is doing in effecting change within the organisation. I think a powerful example of it working well.
Okay, I think this is. I think we've got a clear message here. I'm just not quite sure what the answer is now, but we clearly need to strengthen this. I think we as a committee need to be more prepared to exercise a bit more of what of the power that we have. Michael,
just to help, if I can, Chairman. It has always been done by the efficiency or whatever committee. It's had different names, but effectively the efficiency committee, by a mixture of calling in things there. Because to do it in the grand committee is quite difficult. To call in things there, if there is perceived to be some problems, and the officers have to flag that as well in the first instance, plus a secular, review of departments and so on, which should, I emphasise, should it also include the chairman of the service committee, so that he or she knows what's happening. And I think that's really important, and it's not always done, and that should also apply incidentally to internal audit.
Yeah, no, okay. And I think that's what we are. We are expanding the work of efficiency performance. We have quite substantially. But I just thinking aloud. I think Michael's absolutely right. But I think it probably would be helpful for this committee at least to have a high level sight of what has been reviewed, just so I'm not quite sure. I think perhaps should come out in a report from you, the chairman, or part of yours, just to demonstrate to the committee what has been looked at.
Yes, Chairman, and I think this is a summary of what's been looked at, and whereas before there had been a cyclical programme, it's largely been overtaken by there being a number of risks for this last year, so it's been very much focused on top-down identification rather than the cyclical side. I think also it ties in with a conversation Audit and Risk Management Committee had as well, as to the role of the risk side of the Audit and Risk Management Committee in assisting committees in joining the dots together when there are issues. So I think it does all come together as well. So we need to have a whole scale review. But we'll come back with what the efficiency and performance working group has been looking at and the outcomes from that, and tie it into what the forward programme is. So a deeper look at the forward programme.
Okay, thank you. James.
Thank you. Perhaps following on from Sir Michael's sort of comment, if I go back a few years when we were also had some financial pressures, slightly different reasons, we did go through a slightly different budget setting process, recognising we are late-ish on in the corporation's budget setting exercise, and that did involve not all but a number of the service committees stroke institutions together with their chairs, really around having both a look at obviously the budget that's going to be set, but the medium-term financial plan. And whilst it might be difficult to make many changes at this point in the cycle, I think where there are opportunities, one, we should be identifying them. Two, I think it starts us looking forward and understanding where some of the levers are. And I just wonder whether we shouldn't be doing, whether it's through ERP or whatever else, a series of budget meetings with chairs, or just with the Chamberlain and Chair of Finance guiding it's done in a more informal way. Thank you.
I think that's Chamberlain. I think we.
Yes, the intention was always to review our budget setting processes this year because they are out of date and they're not fit for purpose. And looking at where we are going forwards with the new environment, we definitely need a different approach. Yeah.
Sorry, just to follow up, but I think we shouldn't be. I think we should be subject to others' views. I think we should be seeking to set up those meetings now rather than sort of do a whole review process.
No, I agree.
Yeah, no, that's it. Just Sandra.
Thank you. Back to my hobby horse, zero-based budgeting. I really do think we ought to start doing zero-based budgeting and keep a cash limit, i.e. envelope. I've never worked anywhere that doesn't do that. And, people should be able to explain every last penny, not pennies, but sums of money, why they're there, what added value they provide for the organisation, what service function they're providing, and all of that, so that we know that every layer in the budget has been approved.
No, thank you. I think we've got a pretty clear steer there. Thanks. I think we can move on.
Chairman, item 7, the review of financial controls, internal audit update report of the Chamberlain for information, page 39.
I think we can note this. Matt, do you want to add anything to this? Oh, sorry, Sandra.
Sorry, just one point. I mean, I think this is a very good piece of work, and I agree with the 3 priorities. I'm just slightly concerned that some of the key deliverables seem to be a very long way off. They're all at the back end of this year, early next year. And I just wondered whether there were any that could be brought forward, like service levels, for example. I mean, one would have thought they might be able to be delivered sooner, but maybe it's all down to ERP.
Who wants to pick that up? Who's going to pick that? Chamberlain? Item 7.
Previous item.
Oh, that's previous. Oh, see, you shall be. Sorry, we've gone through that one. Okay. Yeah. No, I moved on. Okay. Well, I think we can note the points, Andrew. Can or should we accelerate some of those?
Yeah, and I think ultimately it's a matter of prioritising which work comes first. And one of the critical pieces for finance now is responding to the local government settlement. But we will, of course, advance anything that we can and be more ambitious. So thank you for the prompt.
Okay, thank you. We move on to 7th then. In that case, Matt, do you want to add into this? I think we're just noting it.
Yeah, well, if there's something.
Has anybody got any questions on James?
It's a simple but broader point, Chairman, because you look at something like this and you see the references to the work that we're doing there in relation to DWP, and I just wondered if we could get an assurance or make sure that in that dialogue that has to be had with government that we're hearing earlier, that we are thinking about all the different things that we do, not just the local government functions that support London and the wider community, but we make sure we remind government of all the extra work that we do, because I think that will help with our dialogue.
Where are you?
So we're looking at item 8, are we not?
I'm on 7.
Oh, you've gone back to 7.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I thought you moved on again.
Right, sorry.
We know what's coming then.
We know what's going to happen. Can we note 7 then? Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman, item 8, connect to work, change of name contracting body for information, page 45.
So James, you had a question on this.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a suggestion. My suggestion is that we make sure that you and the officers and others that are going to have that dialogue with central government remind them of the wide range of good work that falls outside of our strict local government remit to encourage them to be nicer to us. Thank you.
No, point well made. Thank you. Adam.
I'm just wondering why we actually have this bit of paper in front of us for information, because it's just saying that it's changing from one person to another. It was 800 words to do it, most of them repetitive. I actually put it through ChatGPT and got it down to 320 words. So, I mean, should we be seeing it?
Adam, I did make exactly the same point of call over yesterday, that actually it's useful to know, but it doesn't warrant the length of paper. But thank you, and the officer has picked that up as well. So and I've just made the point again. I'm going to talk about the costs of our committees as well later on in this meeting anyhow, but I think it's just one of these things we have to be a bit more slick as to what we're doing.
I just add to it, there was an error in it, which meant I spent like 10, 15 minutes going back and trying to work out whether it was an error or it was mine. Okay. And it was theirs, and ChatGPT spotted the error as well.
Thank you. All right, can we move on? Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Turning on to item 10, questions on matters relating to the work of the committee.
I've got no questions. I just wanted to pick up one question we had from Anne Corbett, who unfortunately is ill. She asked why paper 17 was not in public, and I think it's because the Honourable Irish Society is funded from City Estate and is provided services in our private capacity. That's why it appears in non-public. So, Anne, I hope that answers your question if you're there. Other than that, I've got no other questions. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Item 11, any other business you consideration at this point?
I've got no other business.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 12, are members now content to exclude the public at this point?
Thank you.
Bear with me, members.